Hello, everyone, and welcome to another SDGC review discussion. I'm Derek.
And
I'm here. Oh no! He's jumping the line. What's up?
I was,
I'm here with my buddy
and we're
Matt,
here to
aka
talk.
Finn.
And we're here to talk about Dokkan Battle, Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle,
We are
the
not here to
9th
talk about
anniversary.
Dokkan Battle.
Worth a shot. Is it
Oh.
Final Fantasy VI?
I am so ready for the charity event because we're absolutely going to challenge you to do some Dokkan Battle vamping on the spot at some point.
I mean, Derek, I just pulled LR Gamma 1 and 2 and LR Beast Gohan, so I'm feeling pretty good today.
those are words. Those
They
are
sure
absolutely words that are in
why
the
don't you
language.
tell the people why we're actually here?
I'll tell you what we're actually here for. We are here to talk about my time with Capcom's latest game, Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess, which Capcom was kind enough to provide us a review code on PC for. So that is primarily what I'm going to be speaking, to my my time with. Finn, have you played Kunitsu-Gami at all yet, or have you just kind of paid attention to some of the, trailers and pre-release marketing stuff?
It's that I know about it. I know it's something that's up my alley. I like the fact that it's on Game Pass, so it's like trialable for me. But I have not had time to actually sit down and play it. However, hearing everyone's responses to it has definitely made it higher on the priority list, let's say.
Yeah, it's really funny because I started playing Kunitsu-Gami and I was like, oh my god, I think I'm a sicko for this game, but maybe this isn't going to be for that many people. And then it turns out that just about every person I know who has actually put any time into the game has come away a complete sicko for this game. The problem is just that not enough people are playing it. But let's talk a little bit about what Kunitsu-Gami is, lay it out, because it is a very unusual game. It does not cleanly fit into existing genre descriptors.
I do want to say one thing before you jump into the elevator pitch, is the things I've seen and heard about this game, the vibe, I think the greatest praise I can give it is this game is so PS2 era.
Yes,
like Capcom.
So
just that generation of games where we got just weird shit made. Just they were because they didn't have to worry about a gajillion dollar budgets and 5-year dev cycles. They were just able to just be like, this will probably be fun. And just roll with it.
This is, so I immediately, the way I described it was, this is an incredibly like Clover Studios PS2 coded game. Like, you would not have surprised me if I'd seen Shinji Mikami leading up the project, right? Like, that's what it feels like. But here's what's crazy. I said that it's PS2 like Clover Studios coded, but by the time I was about halfway through the game, I realized I was actually wrong. It's Nintendo coded. And I will explain what I mean by that later on. I'm gonna put that incredibly spicy take right up front, and I'll justify it later. So Kunitsu, I know. So Kunitsu-Gami, the basic concept of it is, and it's an almost entirely dialogue-free game, other than occasional vocal barks from NPCs. But you are a swordsman going by the name of So, and you are transporting and escorting this priestess who is like the only one who can heal the like corruption and the demonic influence over the land. And what happens is you come into a level and you start on one end of the level, and you need to, during the daytime of the cycle, like you need to utilize your time to carve a path for the maiden to follow towards the shrine gate at the end where the demons spawn from. You need to free villagers and cleanse corruption and repair defenses and basically prepare yourself, because wherever you are when nighttime comes, the priestess is going to hunker down in place, and it's going to become a sort of mixture of character action and tower defense game, where you give the villagers different jobs like archer or marksman or, shaman or sumo wrestler, and, set them up with your defenses to try to survive the night. Then day comes and then you get back to, trying to help her travel to the other side. And when you get to the other side, you purify the gate and you finish the level and you move on. So it's this mixture of like, it's sort of Pikmin-like with the day-night cycle and the resource management and the Dandori. But then it is very much like a character action game and a tower defense game in those nighttime cycles. Very unique hybrid. I mean, this is not focus tested.
But I love it. Like, it's one of those things where you just hear a mishmash of genres and your brain first goes, wait, what? And then the more you see it, the more you go, wow, okay. Like, I mean, one part character action game, one part like building style thing.
Yeah,
like,
kind of.
It keeps making me think like of an RTS.
There's definitely RTS inspiration in it, right?
Yeah, it's just awesome.
Yeah. There is, in between levels, you can go back to like areas you've cleared the corruption from, and you can actually utilize the villagers to rebuild those areas for bonuses. So they can like rebuild damaged, shrines and damaged, this and that, and you can get like, extra resources or bonuses. So there's kind of a little bit of casual base building, on top of the actual main gameplay segments. So here's kind of, I want to hear some of your questions, because you see that it is like a visually arresting game, and you see that it's
it's awesome.
You see that it's a very unique like combination of gameplay inspirations. As somebody who has not played yet, what are the kind of questions you have about this game?
First question was always going to be like, does it work?
Oh, yes.
Because just because people are mashing together two disconnected genres doesn't mean it's going to like mesh well, right? But obviously the answer to that is hell yeah. The second question I was going to ask, but you already kind of answered it, was like, does it have a plot or a story? And you said it's very
arch, right?
It's there, but it's not the focus.
I think
we're not going to be getting.
So the characters do, like, there is an arc happening with the priestess primarily, more than with the the swordsman. So, I would say that because the cutscenes are all zero dialogue and they are all played out with this like slightly exaggerated like body motion and this theatricality, I do wonder if there's meant to be like a little bit of like kabuki theater inspiration in it. It takes up a very diorama like camera angle for much of the game, even though you can free move the camera. By default, it's very diorama-esque. So like I think that's an intentional creative choice. I do also think that it helps keep the budget of the game down, right? Like if we're being real.
Fair, yeah.
I think this is a smaller team. I think this is a lighter budget.
Which is good. We need games like that, right? Like we have to bring back the middle road between massive AAA and one-person indie dev studios.
Well, and that's like, what you just talked about in terms of like the PS2 era of Capcom.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I mean. Like, and it's so cool that it's Capcom doing this.
Yeah, because it is like, because this is a game that is a little bit more, its budget is more reasonable. Its team is smaller. This seems very creator driven. If it doesn't need to sell 5 million copies to probably, I assume, to make its money, but like I do think this is a game that has a lot of appeal to probably more people than you might think. I guess the way I would put it is that like for people who are variety gamers, right? People who want to play all kinds of different experiences and aren't just like, I play online shooters. Kunitsu-Gami is a breath of fresh air in terms of there's nothing else that feels quite like it.
I will say though that I feel like the name does it a disservice in terms of getting casual people like scrolling, say, through Game Pass or Steam or whatever to give it a shot, right?
Yeah,
like,
this actually, it's so funny you bring that up, because me and John were talking about that on the show last night, that like if this game had a name like Goddess Blade or something like really generic,
right, like, it sucks because stuff like this makes it stand out to us, but like to the general person, you're right.
Yeah,
like,
it's a Japanese
Blade
name.
Or
it's not,
or Path of the Maiden.
Yeah, it's not It's not words like Kunitsu-Gami, like these are not common words. There's plenty of Japanese words that have caught on in the English language, and that's like nobody knows what Kunitsu means.
Can I tell you though? Don't you? I just truly think if they had flipped the colon,
like Path of the Goddess Kunitsu-Gami.
Path of the Goddess colon Kunitsu-Gami.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Just
put the thing that people remember first.
Yeah.
I mean, don't.
It doesn't affect you or
I.
Things that are not English like have that uphill battle to face. But they do. But like the other thing I will say is this is a game that really feels like it should have also been on the Nintendo Switch.
You mentioned that where even though I saw your post or tweet or whatever about it, where you said even if the game had to be visually downgraded, the style of the game holds up so well that it wouldn't have impacted the quality.
Yeah, I think that the gameplay mechanics of the game, right? I think the core gameplay loop could have existed on the PlayStation 2. Right? There is nothing about this conceptually that could not have been a PlayStation 2 game. It's just obviously much, much prettier than a PlayStation 2 game. So I fully believe, and the art style I think would hold up well to a little bit of a visual pairing back. I think a Switch version would be possible, and the thing is, I think Nintendo's fan base, in particular, would be primed to look at this title and find something to love. And the reason I say this, let's get back to what I was saying earlier about this secretly being a Nintendo game. It's because Kunitsu-Gami is just immaculately well designed. Every level after the first one or two that just get you the basic concepts of the game, every level introduces a new mechanic, a new gimmick, a new concept that you've not run into before. And then, the one after that will take it away, right? It's constantly juggling ideas in and out and then, bring something back you haven't seen in several levels with a new twist on it. Or sometimes cleverly takes away parts of the gameplay loop that you took for granted. I will give a couple of early examples of this, and I want some of the later ones to not... it's like not spoilers because it's gameplay mechanics, but... I think there is a lot of delight and surprises. The third level introduces a light mechanic where you're going through caves and your villagers can only attack enemies that are in the light. So one of the things you need to do is set up the lanterns, and relight lanterns across the area so that you can actually, fend off enemies in that area. That is not a mechanic that returns for quite some time. There is a mission only shortly after that where you go through the whole day cycle setting up for nighttime, and then nighttime comes and something happens that disables the player character entirely, and you become just like a will-o'-the-wisp style ball. So now you are in an endless night cycle, no survive until the end of the night, no character action, full-blown manage this team you've got and make it work, and build up enough resources to pass the night. There's a mission later on where you have during one daytime cycle only to get as much resources and your villagers together before you get transported to a completely different and very restrictive map to basically play like a point defense. And these ideas get juggled in and out and remixed and combined together in ways they haven't before in a way that feels very Nintendo. It's very Mario or Zelda. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. And like you, again, is like a Nintendo sicko, a Mario sicko. The classic 2D Mario way of layering in new ideas into levels.
Of course.
And like Kunitsu-Gami does that so, like, only Nintendo does that consistently.
So what did you play this on?
I played on PC.
Okay. So here's a question.
Yes.
How does it control? How does it play? Like, you're playing on PC, but do you think the game's controls translate well to a controller, or does this deserve to be keyboard and mouse? Because some of the genres they mention, I feel like makes controller
I only
usage
played
a
with
little
controller.
harder.
I did not use mouse and keyboard at all.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in my mind, this is a game that like it's on PC, but it's a PS or PC, PlayStation, Xbox. It launched on all three. So
right.
So
I knew that there was controller support. I just didn't know if it was a game. Like some games just work better with one form of control.
To me,
than the
this
other.
feels like a controller game. Because so the way it works is, you obviously like run around with the control stick. You have like a jump, a light and heavy attack, an interact button. Your right stick for your camera. Pretty basic controls that just like feel very good in the way that they mesh together. You have a block button on one of the shoulders. You have the big thing is you have a button that pauses the game and takes you to like villager control and gives you like an overhead view. And that's where you can select a villager and it shows like what job you have assigned to them and the like range around them that they act within. And you can reposition them through that screen. Using the control stick to like slide around the map and place their positions. It works pretty well. It feels good because you can only really position villagers within a certain range around you. So the restrictions feel natural. I think this was designed with gamepad first and mouse and keyboard. I should probably try that out at some point, but I get the feeling mouse and keyboard will provide no advantage.
Okay.
So
cool.
One thing I do want to bring up about the PC port specifically, and this is not something I've read about being an issue on PlayStation or Xbox so far, is I have dealt with a couple crashes. And that's pretty unusual. So it's something I do want to bring up. In my testing, it seems like the crashing most consistently happens with like tree foliage turned to max and like ray tracing turned to max, and that turning those two things down specifically, once I did that, I've never experienced another crash. I assume that stuff will get fixed. Capcom's very good about fixing, any issues that are technical issues within their games when they exist. But that's a bit of a downer, right? To like crash out as you're transitioning from one part of a stage to another, and then you got to start over. And that happened a couple times. So like, if you're not a PC diehard, maybe pick this up on PlayStation or Xbox instead. But you'll still have a good time with the PC version. I still fantastic time.
I'm excited. I'm planning on grabbing it on PlayStation because when I travel, I feel like it's going to be a perfect PlayStation Portal game.
You know what? I think it would be. That's actually a really good call. I think it's a really good because the matches, levels, whatever you want to call them, like they don't take terribly long. Boss battles are only a couple minutes long usually, and stages, usually doing an entire stage is like 20, maybe 30 minutes. What's my gameplay timer at right now? I played 14 hours. And I get the feeling that I probably could have beat it faster if I pushed through it instead of like taking my time to explore like some of the base building stuff more and replayed some older levels, because you can go back to older levels with all the stuff you've unlocked and all of the new character classes and your character upgrades, things like that. I get the feeling this could probably be beaten in about 10 hours. So longer than your average Resident Evil game by quite a bit, but not a sprawling 40-hour RPG.
Which is good. Again, we need more games like that.
Yeah, great. Bite-sized, great refresher. You know what? If you just finished one massive RPG and you've got another one in your backlog staring at you, Kunitsu-Gami is a great palate cleanser in between those two.
I did that with Hellblade 2.
Yeah, that's a great call for that, actually. Yeah.
But that's awesome. Yeah. So this is, you would say this is a recommend.
This is a highly recommend. I would say
I love it. I love surprises.
Yes,
like surprise. Like kick-ass games.
In a year where we got a new Like a Dragon, a new Final Fantasy, a new Persona, right? I got Dragon's Dogma 2.
New Tales.
I got Dragon's Dogma 2 from Capcom, which I was a huge sicko for, and everyone knew I was going to be. We got this fantastic expansion to Elden Ring, right? Massive. In this year, a very packed year already, Kunitsu-Gami has turned out to be my game of the year so far. and it's not even close.
That's awesome.
I was not expecting that. I thought this would be a palate cleanser of a game for me, and it turned out to be something that I really found joy in a way I traditionally do not find outside of some of Nintendo's absolute best offerings. So, you know, like Capcom nailed it on this one, if you ask me. And the director of the game is not somebody particularly major. This is like an opposite of an Exoprimal, right? Because it's not super heavily pushed. It's not super expensive. And yet, like, I think that the end result is something that should appeal to a ton of people. Shuichi Kawada, that's the director of the game. I'm going to be paying attention to him because I'm very curious where he goes next inside Capcom after a game like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear it. Like, I'm glad it's just another example of Capcom just racking up the dubs this generation, and you just love to see it.
You absolutely do love to see it. Do you have any more questions about the game?
About the game, no, but I do have questions.
I always have questions. What are the things bogging down your mind?
Derek, why are you so charming?
It's the trauma, mostly.
Well,
it's
you know what?
It's because I fear if I'm not like this charming that people will leave me.
It's true. I've been dying for a reason, but you keep drawing me back in. We should do the thing where I don't know if you've seen the trend where we get a bowl and some candy and then trauma dump on each other and then eat candy together.
That sounds like a great time, actually. I mean, you know, yeah, absolutely. Why not?
TikTok keeps me young.
Get some mochi and just go at it.
There it is. Thank you for letting me be part of this. I mean, because this is a game that I already know I am going to play, but because I had not had a chance to, it's nice to know that my choices have been validated.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to hear your opinions because, like, I know I'm a sicko. I know that, like, our friend Ash Parrish has been going on about this game. I've seen a couple other writers, but, like, I'll be very curious to see how, because you have such interesting tastes in games, and you're very all over the place, and I respect the hell out of that. So
I sure am.
So I will be very curious to see what you think when you do eventually play it.
Nice.
So that is once again, thank you Capcom for providing us with a review code. Highly recommend Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess on PlayStation and Xbox. Get it on PC if that's really your preferred platform, but like maybe wait a tiny bit on it for some technical fixes, or just get it on PlayStation or Xbox. It is also on Game Pass. It's only $50 brand new, so there's also that. And I think that's all I've got. So thank you, folks, for joining us for this game. Not exactly one of the year's blockbusters, but gosh darn it, it should be. And I'm sticking to it.
I mean, that's the thing. Again, the what is it? The dark horse or the surprise hit. What am I? Oh, sleeper hit. That's the word I was looking for. I love when you stumble across the year's sleeper hit. You know what I mean?
And this is 100% that. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. All right, folks. Remember, you can catch us live for our weekly news show Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on twitch.tv/official SDGC, and catch the podcast versions on your preferred podcast service a few days later whenever I can get around to it. Finn, thank you so much for joining me, bud.
Of course.
Yeah.
Always.
And as John likes to say, kindness costs nothing, so take care of each other, and we will see you all next time.